Hi, welcome back. I know it's been a while. I am Mike at the head of Greyworks, the creator of indie animation Howling Hoods and Mr. Manhattan, currently working on two indie anime projects. And I'm joined with Jenna from Sunflower Club. Jenna, why don't you tell them what you do?
Hi everyone, I'm Jenna. I work with the Sunflower Club, taking care of some behind the scenes things and helping keep the projects organized. I also have my own project that I'm running through them called Antipasto. And other than that, I do various freelance writing things for indie animation and visual novels, and I'm a voice actor.
Right. Got any plans coming up? Anything fun?
Right now we're taking a small break from pre-production on my thing just so I can prepare for the production stage of stuff. But otherwise, nothing that I can talk about because of NDAs.
No, yeah, I know that. I'm at a point where I have stuff being worked on with both my projects, but it's like, there's only so much I can share right now.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. But yeah, so today we are talking about Fiona and Cake. So, uh, fan fiction is coming true in more than one ways, not just for the fans, but for the characters in universe. As Simon Petrikov, after uh, years of depression and existentialism, finds himself going on an adventure with characters who he thought were fictional, Fiona and Cake. And Fiona and Cake uh, come into the real world and discover them. Well, they come into the real world, into the land of Ill, and they go on to various adventures across the multiverse as Fiona just deals with her own existential crisis. And yeah, Jen, why don't you tell us what you thought about the show?
I thought it was
Mm,
such a great way
yeah,
to cap off Simon's story because I feel like with the previous sequels we've gotten and the finale of Adventure Time, we got a lot of good endings for everyone, but we never really got something that was very satisfying for him. Like I feel like he lost the most at the end of
yeah.
everything. So it was really great to see like a look into the life he's been leading since the end, and also to kind of see him completing his own journey on his own terms.
Hmm. Yeah. I really love this, but also what I did love about Fiona and Cake was how it kind of recontextualized some of the stuff because Simon in Adventure Time does have like a very amazing backstory with both like just the crown in general, but as well as like with Marceline. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things is that as Ice King, he kind of has the not problem, but kind of a like a pattern it comes up with characters like Mr. Freeze of we know him and his story with his wife, but the thing is his wife doesn't really have that much of a character.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and as it goes along, it kind of reframes it as like kind of shows in Simon's point of view of like what that relationship was actually like and how not an abusive relationship by any means, but like there's a dynamic of control that he had over Betty that he wasn't even aware of. Like there's a power dynamic that
Yeah.
yeah. And I know when you say power dynamic, you just instantly think something like icky and bad. But the thing was like it's uh he was a well-known professor and she was a college student at the time. I think she was in one for later years, is implied, and it's like almost a 10-year age difference. It's implied, but it's like this is like a fan dating their celebrity, and it's like their big celebrity crush. And even if like he's not trying to do anything wrong, like he just kind of keep like there's gonna she's gonna be inclined to always say yes to all his decisions. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not it's not as much as the ideal romance that a lot of Adventure Time fans kind of made out after the finale. Because good. Sadly, Betty doesn't have as much as a character as many of the other characters in Adventure Time. Just kind of nice, like love interest lady.
Yeah, like especially in the original series, like we, mostly what we got of her was just snippets of snippets of memories and Simon
Hmm.
kind of idealizing her as like the perfect person.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, also, not just about Simon. Let's talk about our main stars, Fiona and Cake. With kind of taken back by the first episode of it taking place in the real world of, well, in quotations, uh, but of a non-magical ill, and we just get to see Fiona just go about like a average kind of 20 girl in her mid-20s life. Yeah, as she just daydreams throughout before she kind of ends up going into the land of Ew and has another essential crisis along the way. Yeah. I really liked Fiona and Campbell. I feel like uh she could have been a kind of almost like a fangirl stand-in for like kind of a nerd out throughout the time. But here she just feels like that this is definitely like a more of a realistic kind of, I guess best term of like uh almost like how sitcoms now that stars like a young woman in the city kind of like has a be portrayed all cutesy and like she's just going through her shenanigans life. Here she's like she's trying to make rent, she barely has a job. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they did a really nice job, like giving her a full personality that wasn't just like Finn but a girl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and getting to see her story was wonderful.
Yeah, I loved how when she first shows up in Ooh, it almost becomes the power fantasy she wants because she saves Cake from a bunch of like Ooh citizens, but they're clearly like Princess Bubblegum's servants, and they're like it's like a candy cane and like a burger man and a cup of coffee. Yeah, like yeah, she's able to fight that, but once she goes across the multiverse and deals with stuff that Finn probably had to deal with, like vampires and uh weird dystopia world, she doesn't have like she's not really superhuman in any way the way Finn from Adventure Time was, or even like Fiona and like Ice King's fan fiction was.
Yeah, yeah.
uh yeah, it's a I like seeing her kind of deal with just kind of the obstacles she has to come across with more compassion, or like uh, how like much of a threat everything seemed to her, and how endangered she just felt all the time.
Yeah, like, in the series, Finn's 14 and he,
Mhm.
I feel like he faces all of these challenges with this like, blind optimism of, oh, I'm a kid and it's magic and I can do it. And, whereas for her, like every time something went really sideways, it was like much more sobering.
Mhm.
It was very like, oh, these are real people's lives and this is terrifying to me.
Mhm.
Which was a really interesting perspective to explore.
Mhm. Yeah. Something I do want to talk about really quick, just to get this kind of give it out of the way of where we find out how Fiona and Cake's world actually is, because I love this idea of Prismo uh, basically just wanted to write his own version of Finn and Jake, and so wrote just like a female spinoff, and but he wasn't allowed to like actually make this universe because he can't make stuff for himself, so he hid it in Ice King's brain at the time, and then when Ice King's magical powers got devoured by Golb, it ended up just becoming like a real world. Like all the magic's gone. uh, yeah, something I do also love was I was actually rewatching some Adventure Time beforehand, and I watched the uh, last Fiona and Cake episode of Adventure Time, and in it, someone asks Ice King's reading at the library, and someone asks Ice King, "Where do you get your ideas from?" He says, "I get my ideas where everyone else gets them from. They're shot into my head in the middle of the night." And in Adventure Time, we just see Prismo just shoot a laser into uh, Ice King's head, and that's something I really love about this spin-off series, sequel, whatever you would like to call it. How it does feel like kind of well, not planned. It does feel like creators just going back saying like, oh, we can bring this back and make it work and tie it into this, or
Yeah, you can definitely tell that, like, I feel like, and this is true with all the Adventure Time spin-offs and stuff, like, there's really careful planning that goes into it
Mhm.
to make sure that everything kind of lines up and nothing feels like it's just out of the blue. Like, it all feels organic
Yeah.
to the same story.
Yeah, and Pendleton Ward was also the head of this, the creator of Adventure Time as well, and he seems to have a very kind of like abstract sense of humor and storytelling, but he also seems to really care about Adventure Time. Like that's like his thing and everything connected to it, and how he just wants to explore these characters as much as he can until kind of not cut them off, but like their story's complete, and
Mhm.
not everything's going to have like a traditionally satisfying storytelling ending, which I really love. Yeah, what something that was kind of like a sobering shock to me was in episode 2, where it's the Simon Petrikov episode where he meets Finn at the bar, and we find that we know that Jake died when Finn was younger in distant lands, but here we find out Jake died when Finn was like in his early 20s, it seems.
Yeah,
Which it's just it's kind of a no, it's a sad thing, but it's like, oh man, you just kind of want to see Finn and Jake go on more adventures, but it's like, nope, that's over.
I know. It feels like such an end of an era thing.
Yeah, yeah, but and that's amazing because I feel like a lot of shows would kind of drag out that dynamic until they're like both in their old age. But it's like, yeah, not every story has like a perfectly satisfying wrapped up ending. Uh,
Yeah, and like the whole Adventure Time universe does a really great job of like not shying away from the more difficult aspects of things. Like even
mhm.
if it's presented in kind of a colorful, palatable way, like, you're still dealing with a world where, basically nuclear war led to
Oh
magic.
yeah.
Yeah.
I speaking of, I do love kind of the world building we see a bit beforehand, where we see a bit of the human world, because it is the human world, but it's not quite our human world. Because Simon was studying ancient artifacts, and he had knowledge of magic to a degree, uh, as well. And we do get to see more of his interactions with Betty along the way, uh, trying to make her more of a character, stuff like that. And one line that kind of got me in episode 2 was when Simon said, I used to be quite the outdoorsman. And I was kind of wondering, did he mean when he was like searching for ancient artifacts, or did he mean when he was with Marcy the whole time, like during the nuclear fallout?
Probably a combination.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I love this pair up because it's not like a something I do feel like Adventure Time always had was like the pair ups of certain characters, right, romantically or as friends or historically, aren't just like they don't feel like they're meant to be like to shock you, like complete opposites. But
Hmm.
it's more like characters you wouldn't think have really interacted, like Ice Kid and Marcy. You wouldn't think they have interacted, but until you find out that the what they had in common before the episode "Remember You" was that they were both this they were both around when Earth was still Earth before the Mushroom War. It's
That episode is still one of like the
uh,
best storytelling things to me. Like
oh
just
yeah.
just the character, the deepening of character development all of a
Hmm.
sudden.
Hmm.
Like it starts out with just like, oh, Ice King's bothering Marcy or whatever, and then we
Hmm.
get this whole great extra layer to their characters and their relationship.
Yeah. Speaking of one of the there was a YouTube collaboration between animators of they reanimated the song "Remember You," um,
Hmm.
and just a really great thing if anyone wants to check it out. That one of the storyboarders for the episode was Rebecca Sugar, who returned to create an original song for this part of the madness, which is just a nice kind of sad song throughout Simon's just life of just him being unable to really relate to the land of Oo now, even with all these humans, because Simon is a human from a boring human time before there's really any magic or like any superhuman ability. Like Simon's just kind of a guy. it, and his when he meets with Fiona and Cake, his uh, desire to help them by turning back the Ice King is almost like a it's almost like a way of just slipping back down a bad path.
Yeah, like I felt like there was a lot of a really good mental health metaphor going on in there because it
Mhm.
seemed just like, I mean, what Simon basically went through was he had, you know, a situation that affected his mentality and his emotions, and he was able to get treatment for it by getting rid of the crown. But now he's in this place where it's like, I don't, I was that person for so long that am I not me anymore? Or, did people, it seems like people liked him better when he
Mhm.
was that erratic guy.
Yeah.
And, for him, it's like, the getting the crown back to use the power was a solution, but it also felt like an excuse to just go back to what was easier instead
Almost
of
like
taking,
dissociate.
yeah, instead of taking care of himself and moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. It's also like he's not at the point where he can really remember that Ice King was like a really sad guy the whole time. Like he
Oh,
was
for real.
sad.
Just lonely and just so, and just so disconnected from everyone and
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah, and yeah. I oh god, I do want to just say, God damn, Tom Kenny just kills it as Simon and Ice King, even with the flashbacks we get.
Oh,
As
I love the fact that especially particularly when he's Simon, that it gives Tom Kenny a chance to have a more dramatic and grounded role
yeah,
because, I feel like like he ends up getting work for like the wacky zany stuff, but I
yeah.
mean he shines so much in a
Yeah.
grounded, serious role, and I love it.
I think Simon could have come off as like a very what note like meek, sad character, like oh no, the whole time. But like Simon just like Tom Kenny's just performance as Simon just gives him like almost like a gentleness towards him, and like he's so passionate about the stuff he talks about when he like kind of gets in depth with it. And he has so much compassion to other people, like as we see with Marcy when he was taking care of her, but also with Fiona, especially when like Fiona's down the dumps and he has to kind of give her like a pickup speech or tells her a funny story. It's like there's so
Yeah.
much earnesty in all his deliveries. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like such genuine emotional moments.
hmm hmm Yeah, we got a pretty fun voice cast all around with most of the actors returning, save for Kamel Nanjiani. But I do like the person Sean Rahani, uh,
Hmm.
who was the replacement voice for Prismo. And I do like that we got to see more of Prismo all around because Prismo was always a fun kind of very casual like slide character, but now that we see him kind of go through his own essential crisis, this whole show is full of essential crisis of
And
uh yeah, and yeah, I think it's implied to kind of happen after Jake's passing, like because Jake was like Prismo's best friend above all else, and
mm,
uh, yeah, and him kind of being able to engage more with Fiona and Cake, and I do love. I kind of relate this back to when I was a teenager, and I would occasionally write fan fiction. He's like, it wasn't the most creative thing, but I liked writing your stories. Like that's such a nice moment. Uh,
I know. And you could like, and I love that we're seeing, Prismo in this state of like it's not quite a midlife crisis because he's basically eternal, but it's
right?
just
Yeah.
like this period of I just can't even be bothered because
Yeah.
I'm in a mood,
Yeah.
and yeah, and just seeing him work his way out of that.
Yeah. When we first see him, his hot tub is just full of like microwavable meals and like room temp beer. Hmm. But it's just great overall. And this has been said a bit about like multiversal fatigue over the past few years, but I do love just like kind of how restrained and grounded Adventure Time, Fiona and Cake like took their multiverse without going too much into fan service, as we
Hmm.
do see returning characters and worlds that were more one-offs or had small arcs of Adventure Time, like Farm World. We see that, and we see some alternate ones, such as uh, the world if Simon died, and where the vampires took over. Yeah, love that. I Most of it's like resolved pretty well. Like if we didn't get our season, I'd say like it'd be like we're pretty good. But it's like with Farm World, I am curious of like what happened at the end with
Yeah.
adult Finn.
Yeah, that and like and the kids and everything. I wanted that backstory more.
Yo, yeah, I want to see him and Huntress was.
I know.
I do feel like there's probably like a joke between like the creators like behind the scenes of like, well, we'll imply it and we'll keep having her mentioned, but we're never going to see them as a family. Uh, yeah. What's interesting too is that in the Farm World episode, all the human characters have there was no like radiation or big diseases whatsoever, so all the human characters still have noses. And when Fiona shows up, because it's what Prismo like fan fiction of what Finn and Jake's time was like after the nuclear war. Fiona doesn't have a nose, and they all like knows that. Like, where's your nose, freak?
I know. I love them just like pointing out random character design things.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's all great. Were there any particular worlds or episodes you were really fond of, like where they visited?
oh, when they went to the when where the vampires had taken over and Marceline is the star and
Uh,
yeah, and Bubblegum as like the grizzled war general. Like
mhm.
I just and it was like even though they had all of this hatred, you could still sense there was some kind of like bond and chemistry between them. And just like like it's I feel like it's easier to imagine Bubblegum as like going from like a monarch leader to more of a wartime leader.
Mhm.
But I like I had never pictured Marceline as this like I don't want to say prim and proper, but this like kind of aristocratic
Yeah.
person, and it was just like such a wild take on her, but it also somehow fit her really well too.
I love the outfit she wore in those episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
it was
really great
amazing.
designs. Yeah, is she gum? Is Bubblegum still gum in that universe, or is she
I
just pink?
I think so. Um, I think so, but it was just so wild,
Yeah.
just seeing how that future played out.
Mhm. Yeah. So okay. What's interesting too is in the episode where we see Simon, that version Simon's body, like his corpse, uh, and he has vampire marks on his neck. And then when we he likely had the crown at the time, but then when we see the crowns by the vampire kings, like he was probably killed by the vampire king in that universe. Yeah. Speaking of, it is interesting seeing more blood in Adventure Time. It's kind of more visceral sound effects with the violence.
Yeah, and I mean they also had, people drinking and
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
which I feel like it helped give it that
Hmm.
adult vibe so much more. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like over the top. It was just like these little things where it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, this is from a jaded adult perspective, this
Yeah.
is relatable.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. While still keeping in with the tone of the thing, because I do feel like it probably could have been easier just to, uh, when you have a show that was technically meant to be viewed by kids at the time, and when you have it now, if you want to like make it adult now, I think there's a temptation of making it like almost over the top violent or over the top like swearing or anything like that. It's like no, it still feels like Adventure Time. Like this is clearly the Adventure Time universe. It's just uh, we see a bit more like after hours kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but it was kind of a shock seeing just because Finn did kill monsters in the old Adventure Time, but now seeing like the heads come off and there's like a sound effect. It's like, oh.
Very intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Speaking of death, the Lich is in this.
I love that the Lich is in this, and I love that they got
Ron Perlman back.
yes, because oh my God,
Terrifying.
Ron Perlman vocal deliveries are just always on point and
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. I'm so glad because Twitter was Twitter, and I did get spoiled on like episode 4 or something, so I just kept on trying to avoid Twitter whenever it happened. I'm so glad I didn't get that reveal of, hey, look, it's Jerry, just a hard cut to the Lich on the top of a series of skulls. It's also interesting because we see that kind of villain complete his goal. And that Lich was probably the Lich from the main timeline in Adventure Time, where he wished for all life to be exterminated and was like disappeared. And this is like what he wanted. He's just really depressed.
I know, he's just like, I did it. Now, crap, now what? Like,
Yeah.
he's kind of like in the same boat as Prismo, but at least Prismo like is a little more constructive in how he deals with the boredom.
Yeah. I know we probably won't see it, but I did really want to see what Simon was going to say to the Lich.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you gonna give him like a positive speech? Yeah. So what someone also pointed out design wise is that BMO's the only one alive and stuff like that. But when we see the Lich, he has slight knots in his beards, so it's very likely that BMO went down there and just twisted his beard. Yeah, just that episode was like very variety of kind of the more eerie episodes of Adventure Time, where like the episode where Finn's like his eyes turn magic, so he just sees everyone the way that he sees them in his heart and like transforms them. It's just kind of a somber episode the whole time, and how Adventure Time's like able to like not go too over the top of their stuff. It's like it feel, despite like having candy people around, there's a very dry, almost sad feeling to a lot of it.
Yeah, there's definitely like there's less of that like blind optimism and hope, and more like this is real life, and this is what's happening, and we can't control a lot of it.
Yeah. I relate to some of it, and I do feel like I was the only one excited for the Cheers connection, because I am a fan.
That was great.
Yeah, I am a big fan of Cheers, and it is funny seeing how, because it was what Simon was a fan of. That's the only show in Fionna and Cake's universe. Just
That was amazing. And I love the fact that it wasn't a Cheers parody. It was actually Cheers.
Yeah. We do get to see their version of Norm. Yeah. Are there any characters you wanted to see Fionna and Cake interact with that they didn't get to interact with?
I wanted to see them interacting with Marcy and Bubblegum in the world, because they're so tight with Marshall and Gary, and I just thought that would have been such a great moment, and finding out that Marcy and Bubblegum are dating and just being like, oh wow, oh my gosh, it's like my ship coming true in a different way.
Yeah, I do feel like there was a bit of a. I am sure this was discussed of like how much they want to see Fionna interact with like main timeline Finn, and and like kind of the I don't want to say easy stuff, but like the stuff that all the fans kind of wanted for like a long time of like, oh well, if Fiona and Cake were in the real world, and we gotta see how they interacted with Finn and Jake. But yeah, it's just really cool just how kind of laid back and but still like progressing story wise the show was able to handle things.
Yeah, and I thought they did a really great job giving deeper personalities also to the other people in,
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
Fiona and Cake world.
I do want to say it's cool that we also get like a kind of probably not Cartoon Network's first, but like the first Adventure Time to have like uh, a main well not main but like important male queer couple because yeah it's with Marshall and what's his name Gary
Gary, Gary.
who's still pink in but yeah it was very nice seeing their story as well and how they actually worked together by the start of Fiona and Cake's world, which was interesting. I just kind of would have assumed to see like that it would have been almost like the end of Adventure Time where all the characters are just kind of in their dynamics.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was nice to see that. It was interesting seeing human Marshall's mom what's her Hudson Abenier.
Yeah, like I can't remember if they gave her a
No,
slightly different name or not.
yeah, I'm sure they did. I loved all the just. I know it would have been a bit fan servicey, but I would have just loved the whole series of just kind of like a casual uh, view of like what every character in Fiona and Cake is doing right now, just like the gender swap universe.
Oh yeah. I mean, I
Uh,
would love to, we got like a little bit of Ice Queen running the ice cream
oh
truck, but
yeah,
I would love to have seen a little bit more of that.
yeah. I feel like I'm the only one who finds LSP funny, like 100.
Oh, that
percent
was also that's such a great gender swap name.
Yeah. Oh
LSP.
yeah, Elsie. Yeah, or Leslie. But how were LSP in the main timelines pretty much homeless in the woods? This one's just like living by like an abandoned amusement park with a bunch of squirrels and is dealing like cat drugs with. I think Pendle Ward maybe giving me the biggest laugh of all time with his delivery. Oh my god, bag food! Yeah. If I were to not complain, but like say like one like issue I have with a character is that I don't think, especially in comparison to her main time counterpart, I don't think Cake is as interesting as like the other characters around her. She's a bit more used for comedic relief, which I appreciate because you don't want every character in Adventure Time and Fiona Cake to be having an existential crisis, and it's fine to have a character just like kind of like going with it, like going with the flow. But like, I think comparing her to like Jake the dog and like how wise he could weirdly be is like, Cake's kind of just here as like both for like fun, stretchy stuff and like kind of to be Fiona's supporting like hand. But
Yeah, I do wish we'd gotten a little bit more development of Cake.
but yeah, voiced by hold on. Yeah, I really liked her voice actor, Ross Ryan, which yeah, she was great. She had her own little cake song.
Mhm.
uh, like that. What did you think of uh, where they changed some of the voice actors, such as when it came to like the Winter King? Eh,
I mean, I thought it was kind of nice for the different dimensions
mhm,
to have different VAs, just so it wouldn't feel like, so you could get a sense of how distinctly different they were. Like they weren't all just, a degree or so in a different direction.
mhm,
Like these are fully different people.
yeah,
So I thought it gave some nice new dimensions to the characters.
yeah. And with stuff like the Winter King story and even the Vampire World story, I do like how they're able to like dive into like darker aspects of that you weren't allowed to like on when it was airing on Cartoon Network without it kind of seeming like I don't know, like too much or like trying to like overly shock you, like because it never seems like it's trying to uh present you with bait and then just like pull the rug out from under you. Like, you thought this world was bad, guess what? All the characters die on screen or something like that. Like a bad injustice story where like because I feel like with a lot of these alternate world stories, it's just kind of easy to be like, oh, all the characters are evil and they're killing each other and everyone's just mean and stupid the whole time. Yeah, just uh, uh, yeah, and oh, we also got to see in one of the most creative ways. We got to see Charmy and Beth, the pup princess.
I love that they made an appearance.
Mhm. Which, yeah, and maybe the most devastating line of it because it's a way to kind of like the game serves as a metaphor for Simon about him and Betty's relationship and how they were in love but wasn't exactly on like equal footing.
Hmm.
She was just obsessed with him and like she just could not say no. And the thing was, one of the most harsh lines was in Beth's like very nice voice. You're a kid, you probably just don't get this yet. Not knowing that she's talking to like a 50-ish-year-old Simon.
Yeah. Yeah, like I really love the fact that, it was presented as like Simon wasn't trying to be controlling. He just
Mhm.
it came from a place of,
Yeah.
of trying to be protective to an extent and of trying to make the best choices and of trying to, just feel like he was having some influence over the chaos around him, but he was so caught up in, his single-mindedness that he never stopped to realize that maybe other choices would have been better in the long run, even if it took them longer to get to wherever he wanted to go.
Yeah. Or even just asking her what she wanted to do. uh yeah. Oh, shit, I was gonna say something up. Yeah, it's a fun way to kind of pull back and like kind of explore more of the characters that didn't get as much showing with Adventure Time. Just- oh yeah, I do like how uh, a lot of the characters, even the villains, for the most part, usually have their own very casual or just like very. You can see where they're coming from their point of view. You get why they understand. Like with the main villain, uh, well, attack Scarab of how his job is just like to try and like author like he takes his job way too seriously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and just even though we don't really get it, get we do there's an implication of like his relationship with Prismo in the past and like how we still don't quite get how cosmic beings work, which I like. I like how more otherworldly a lot of these like gods of Adventure Time feel.
Yeah, like you can tell there's like a logic and rules to it, but we just don't happen to know what all of those, rules and parameters are. So there's still like new surprising things.
Hmm. Hmm. And how he has like this weird crystal thing he just puts like off duty gods in there that aren't doing their proper jobs, and then we also get to see. I'm curious about it, but like Orbo and what his deal is. I'm just a laid back Australian god. It's a giant ball, and it's funny because it's like you look at that design, you think joke, but he's a higher authority than Prismo and Scarab. And when he hits Scarab, Scarab kind of like turns into like a bunch of blocks as he just teleports away.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I do also apparently the voice of Orbo is the voice of one of the dogs in that Bluey show.
Yeah, yeah, I loved recognizing that.
Yeah.
He's the voice of Bandit the dad.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of like dubs of like that dad just saying, "Nice speech. Say goodbye to your legs." uh, we also we don't really see what the boss is, but there is just a phone that comes down and like talks to Scarab and Orbo just to like kind of give them orders, and it's just like it, it's like an interesting thing that like it's more Lovecraftian than just say like regular gods that would appear in a series. Yeah. I, I not that it was a disappointment, but I do kind of wish that the ending of Fiona and Cake, after their universe gets like canonized, like didn't have like such a almost a brute force ending, or like an ending that where like Fiona kind of gets her power fantasy of being down Scarab. But at the same time, I look at it, I'm like, ah, it's nice to give Fiona her own break, basically.
Yeah.
uh, um, if they did a season two, would you still want them to like star Fiona and Cake, or would you want them to like star other characters? Or
I mean, I'd like to see Fiona and Cake, but I would love like something maybe focused on like Gary and Marshall Lee. Um, those would be my main ones. Or you know, even like I said, even like Ice Queen or something, seeing
Mhm.
what her, you know, if she has some kind of
Relationship
Simon-ish
with,
story to her, maybe.
yeah, relating with Marshall. Uh, yeah. I liked how nice she was, pretty much, of like how she was just like her an average ice cream lady. uh
I know.
yeah, I love seeing all the new designs for most of the background characters in like basically every universe. Of we get to see like TV, we get to see him like kind of like with like a dog collar on, and yeah, yeah, Finn's got his new design and his beard, and yeah, there with the recent, not recent, but with the last episode of Distant Tales, where uh, Finn and Jake uh, are dead, and it does kind of raise an interesting like implication of just like how Finn deals with grief based against like everyone else. Of like Finn's deal is that he just basically keeps himself busy. And yeah, it's a fun kind of fan thing to just kind of go back and like either like look back at all these episodes and like how they now relate to Fiona and Cake, or how Fiona and Cake comes off of that. Yeah. Yeah. I I am curious if they didn't show Vampire World to as like a cliffhanger, like of what happened later on. Because they leave right in the middle of a fight with the Vampire King and Marcy and PB.
Yeah, yeah. I really wish we could have gotten some closure there.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really fun, kind of almost like a good just like series to like uh almost like watch on like a rainy day of like just yeah. Uh, yeah. Were there any like criticisms you have of the show whatsoever, or anything like something you want to see more of that didn't get shown?
I mean, I guess I just wish that, you know, we could have had more episodes because,
Hmm.
you know, I thought they did a good job getting everything in and wrapping things up, but it was also, you know, it had to be so tight.
Yeah.
You know, it was just plot, 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 plot. You know,
Yeah.
so I wish we could have had a little more breathing room, you know, to maybe have some more softer character moments. And I do wish we could have seen maybe a little bit more of Marcy and Bubblegum at the end or something, because we saw
Oh
like
yeah,
like a peek of them, and it was really cute, and I wish we could have gotten a little more follow up with that.
them trying to get matching tattoos,
Yeah.
but uh, but yeah, yeah. I How many episodes were there? 8,
I thought it was 10.
10.
It might have been.
Yeah, it's like it's a. At one hand, I think I was like, it's a good like knock it out in a day series that like you can watch over alone, like over again, like whenever you're feeling down, like after Adventure Time. But like at the same time, it's like it handled it so well. It was so tight, but it's like I kind of want, kind of want more. There's more stuff to explore. uh, Stuff like, and there are some open ends to a degree, and you want to like, and it's in a place where like if the show doesn't come back to do it, it's not like the end of the world, but it's like it would be nice if we kind of got a full wrap up on that. uh, Something I did kind of expect to come back in one way was kind of when Fiona and Cake interacted with certain magical creatures or items, the magic would go away. And I thought that was going to be like it was going to come back at the end in a way to like outsmart the scarab or some something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just an overall. Yeah, but still, it's not like a complaint. If anything, it's more like a, oh, there's so much that this could do. But, yeah. Now, uh, at the end of it, uh, Betty transforms and go away. With how Simon's story wraps up, would you want to see Simon and Betty possibly get back together, or do you want to, or would you rather Simon kind of be more of his own thing from now on, like not over his relationship with Betty, but like more like doing his own thing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's now recognized that it's okay to move on. Um, and I feel like it's important for him to try just transitioning into the next part of his life,
Hmm.
emotionally.
Hmm.
Because just lingering with what could have been with Betty has just been clearly just weighing him down and just keeping him from being happy.
Yeah,
And I feel like she wants that for him. She wants him to be able to move forward and to have good memories.
yeah. I do like how the show, well, it does talk about like it's talk about change, but it doesn't. I do feel like with other shows, with this, with like you're part of a normal world and you go to the magical world, you have to go back to your, and when you go back to your normal world, the status quo has to kind of be the same. It's like that's not entirely true because Cake's still magic, and there's now kind of like magical creatures out and about Fiona's world, and Fiona's still doing her own stuff. So it's not like saying escapism is just going to lead you to unhappiness. It just says like in moderation, like because now Simon is just doing new stuff to kind of keep himself active and happy. And it's, as one of the robots put, this is going to be an ongoing process of remembering and forgetting and getting all this stuff. But still, just a really great show overall, and just highly recommend to watch it if you're ever in the mood. Like I do think you can watch this without watching Adventure Time, but if you can watch Adventure Time beforehand and like watch this, then you'll like it will just be so much better. It kind of reminds me of like when I recommend Adventure Bros to some people. Well, the first like 2 seasons are definitely the roughest. Like it very, very quickly gets its stride, and like the first 2 seasons do lead on to and have like hints and like story implications to stuff that's just so much better down the road, and just like it ties with so many twists and reveals and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, speaking of, there have been talk of like certain cartoon revivals. Would you like to see are there any like cartoons you would like to see a revival similar to Fiona and Cake? Like maybe something that was more kind of it was meant to air on like a kids network, but now it's like it has like that adult rating.
I mean, one thing that I have just always wanted to see because I really love Gendy Tartakovsky's work is the one show of his that only got one season and got randomly canceled was Symbiotic
Symbiotic
Titan.
Titan.
Yeah, and it was it was a really cool kind of sci-fi concept show. And he always just really knocks it out of the park with
Of
story and
course.
character and stuff. So I mean, I feel like someone needs to fund that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that. Even similar to Fiona Cake, when he kind of was able to finish up Samurai Jack and Adult Swim, just how not like restricted it, not restricted, but like how grounded a lot of it felt. Of like it doesn't feel the need to go over the top. It doesn't feel the need to like indulge and like uh to like prove that it's an adult show. It just kind of is with its storytelling all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just really fun stuff. But yeah, I think that should wrap things up for now. This is our recommendation to see Fiona Cake and Adventure Time. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you get on it. Thanks for joining us, Jenna.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This was great.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.